Today I want to talk about marathon couples counseling. Chris Eschler and myself, Matt Eschler, your relationship fitness coach, licensed marriage and family therapist, both want to help you and your relationship get to the bottom of some of the core issues that weekly counseling just is not reaching. What we notice in our therapy sessions with couples that we do weekly, that there are some of us that have some deeper, more complex issues that just need to come out all at once in order to get our arms around them. And what happens in the weekly counseling is the couple will come in, they'll feel really charged up, really motivated, and they'll feel good. They'll even feel some love towards each other. And then within 2 days or 3 days, maybe, after the session, they nosedive back into old patterns and old behaviors and almost lose hope that the weekly sessions are going to do any good because they only really affect the marriage in a positive way for a couple of days. Those couples probably have some deeper stuff that has to get dug out that we can almost avoid digging out for a couple of hours at a time. Even if we really try hard, there's this notion that in 2 hours, we're going to have an opening, we're going to do the body of work and then wrap up. And in that body, there's just sometimes for couples not enough time to really kind of get to stuff that they might be hiding or stuff that they're unaware of, even stuff that from childhood, stuff from past relationships that are eating away at them. And to dig that stuff out really requires an extended period of time in a session, in a safe place where they feel completely like accepted, loved, and are open to explore, knowing that there's not going to be, okay, I've got to go back to work in 10 minutes, or I've got to go back to my kids and to soccer practice and whatever else I've got going on here in just 20 minutes. See, so often it's so difficult to open up some of those boxes inside of our souls when we know we have to just shut them and be normal again for the rest of the day. And so those couples tend to like stay a little bit surface, and I understand why. It would be super difficult to open up some of these deep wounds and then go and act like you didn't, because there's not a lot of places where you're safe to just kind of like let this stuff out. And so during the marathon session, what we do is we offer a 20-hour period where we get to the bottom of things. And during that 20 hours, there's a very specific format on how to help you get to the bottom of things. You'll have time to talk in depth about struggles and challenges. You'll have time to process past injuries. You'll have time to really learn new communication skills with each other. And sometimes what we've noticed in weekly counseling is we get the surface scratched in how to really communicate, how to really listen to understand instead of listen to respond, how to really, some of the fine parts of how to like speak on one topic at a time. And then the couples go home, back to the world, back to the life as usual with all of the patterns that are out there that are negative, and we slowly forget everything that we learned in the 2 hours and go right back to our old ways of being because it's just such a deep groove in our brain. It's such a habit. This 20 hours is meant to disrupt all of those negative patterns and habits. It's meant to really like shake your system up, almost strip it down to nothing and then rebuild it from scratch is really how I look at it. It's like a literal boot camp for marriage. In fact, I'm thinking about changing the name to boot camp session for marriages instead of marathon session. And we'll talk more about that. So to rebuild the marriage, it's there's some things required, and some of those things that are required we'll cover in that first day, that first time period of the session. We'll get into the time periods here in just a minute. So one of the main things we hope to do in these boot camp or marathon sessions is provide an environment where you know that you've got time to really let your guard down. You will have time to assess for your safety. You'll have time to assess for is my lover here going to be able to accept me how I am? Will the therapists and coaches help me explain myself in a way that I can be really understood? Am I going to be rushed or not rushed? Those are all questions that you'll have answered in those first minutes of this boot camp session. You'll realize how safe you're going to be. You'll realize how supported you're going to be. And you'll realize that you'll be, maybe for the first time in your life, able to take the time to really explain yourself. And that way you don't have to take shortcuts. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to hide. You'll be able to just be you and come completely out with any secrets that you've been holding on to, any past experiences that have been really kind of like sitting in there causing your behavior to be less than what you want it to be. And so you'll have this space of time where it'll be very evident to both of you that you'll be treated with dignity, respect, with no judgment whatsoever. Trust me, Chris and I have heard everything, and we can't be shocked. And we can work with you on no matter what the issue is. We can help you uncover. We can help you get to the bottom of it. We can help you decide what you want to keep and what you want grace to wash away from you, okay? The other thing that we do in this couples intensive therapy is we really help couples whose schedule doesn't allow for twice weekly sessions. They just would rather take a couple of days off work and come in and just really get to the bottom of some stuff. It's really handy for those couples. It's also handy for couples that live in rural areas that can't travel in every week. There's places in Utah where there's literally no therapist, or there's one therapist, but that therapist is also the high school vice principal, or their spouse is a real estate agent, the only one in their town, and so they feel a little bit shy or maybe insecure about getting therapy in their own town. And so you can take some time off, come down, we set you up in a hotel, we make sure that you get your meals, and we make sure that you're completely taken care of during this 3-day intense boot camp therapy session. Okay, so you understand that there's really there's couples that can't do weekly sessions because of time constraints. There's couples that live at such distances from people they want to work with that this is handy for them to just take a block of time off. There's also couples that just don't feel like they can get to the bottom of anything in 1 or 2 hours. And so if you think through that lens, and if you're that couple, let's get you signed up for a boot camp session, and let's see what we can do for you. We have spots that we're going to open up right now. We're looking at our schedule. Chris and I are. We're looking at our 2023 year, and we're going to probably do somewhere around 25 or 30 of these during the year. Now, we've always completely booked up when we've offered these marathon sessions. We've never done this many in a year. We're going to start doing more of these because of how effective they are, okay? And so we're going to open up, I'm going to say 25 slots for these. And so I really wish that I could do more, because I think that they're going to fill up super fast. So if you have a notion that you want to do one of these marathon sessions, I'd like you to get hold of us at 435-688-1111, or go to our website, and they're going to be listed down there or on the board behind me somewhere, so you can have access to those numbers. All right, so these marathon sessions, it's going to go a 3-day period for 20 hours, and I'll describe each of these hours here in just a minute. And then afterwards, there is 7 once-a-month follow-up sessions. We found that even after a 20-hour intensive, couples will slowly slide back into old ways. And the reason I think this happens is you're completely contained for 20 hours. You stay in a hotel, you see us, you see each other, you're kind of pulled out of the world. We're going to ask you to not have a lot of screen time, to not have any work on your plate, but to hyper-focus on your marriage and the counseling. So it's going to be a real safe kind of cocoon environment. And then you go back home, back to where you live, back to your community, back to all of your responsibilities. And it's so easy to just get pulled slowly back into how you used to be in that environment, that other environment. It's kind of like I worked in youth programs for a number of years at the beginning of my career, about 30 years ago. And kids would come into these programs and shine. They would do incredible things. They would be honest. They would take care of each other. They would serve. And then they would go back home to their own environment, out of the residential treatment, and revert back to pre-placement behavior, mainly because we provided a level of safety in residential treatment that the community can't provide. We provided an opportunity for a lower amount of decisions that needed to be made a day. And then back in their community, it's back wide open again. And so it's really difficult to maintain the learning that you have. And so when you go back home, we want to do monthly sessions, and we'll make it as easy as we can for your schedule. We can do them around your schedule to the best of our ability, but they'll just be once a month check-ins on how things are going. We'll give you a booster shot. We'll cover some things that are very necessary to create these rituals that you need to maintain success in your session, in your marathon session. Okay, so let's go to the roadmap. The first session will be on a Thursday, most likely. It'll be on a Thursday. It'll be 4 hours. We generally do that one from 5 to 9 at night, 4 to 8. We'll work around your schedule, but that way you have time to travel in without taking an extra day off work. Because we do ask you to take this block of time, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off work, so that you can really be involved in the therapy, okay? And so in that first session, what we're going to ask you to do is go over the results of the survey that we send out prior to. And I really ought to cover that too. Prior to coming, we're going to send each of you a survey, and you'll call in, and step one is you'll call in, you'll get your session lined up, and you'll receive a marital satisfaction survey. It's a well over 200 questions that really get some in-depth information about you and how you think about the relationship. It's not something you do together. It's something the two of you do very separate from each other. Then we pull them together during our first session, okay? And so to be fully involved in this, we really ask you to take time 2 weeks before you come in to do this survey. Chris and I will put together a brief treatment plan based upon the survey, but then most of the treatment planning will be done when we're all together that first night, okay? And so once you call in, once you get the survey done, and now you've shown up, we ask you to just understand that during the sessions, we're going to have you not have any screens or any way of being contacted. If you have kids at home that you need to check in on, we'll have time during breaks that you can check in. But we want everything out of your way, all distractions, and just really invest in your marriage. Some of you might find this is the very first time that you've had uninterrupted time in your marriage, because that used to not be a thing. Nowadays it's a thing where people are interrupted all the time. And so we want you to learn how to have uninterrupted time. Future date nights, we're going to teach you how to have date nights that are uninterrupted. We want to prepare you for being completely accountable for your behavior, and we want to help you feel safe to do that. We want to teach the concept of grace. I know that some of you think that that's simply a religious context. It's not. Grace is something that is both religious, I guess, and secular. It's the seeking forgiveness and the offering forgiveness to each other. And it's necessary. You can't do a marriage without being humble enough to seek forgiveness and to extend forgiveness. And so we want to talk really in depth about that and how that works inside of a marriage. So day number one, it's about 4 hours long. We'll go over the results of the survey. We'll talk about what the next 16 hours or so of the therapy is going to look like. We'll talk about 3 really specific topics. We'll talk about grace, like I just mentioned. We'll talk about some very specific rules of communication that you're going to really find almost laborious at first and then relieving after you learn how to do it. Because most of us take so many shortcuts in how we communicate with our loved ones that we really don't take with everyone else, but we take it with our loved ones. We take these shortcuts to where we lose the potency of the conversation. We argue without really listening. We stop telling each other our story and start telling the other person what they think their story is. And so really we start talking for the other person in the relationship instead of even talking for ourselves. Have you ever done this? Well, you think that I never work. Well, you think that I don't do this. Or you think that I always, and that's really like not communication. So we're going to cover like how to communicate. We're going to cover some very specific rules on that. And we're also going to cover what your homework looks like. So each night after we're done with the extended sessions, there's going to be intense homework for you to go and accomplish. So you will be busy the whole 3 days. It's going to seem like there's going to be time off. That there's not. There's not going to be any time off. So it's going to be a very intensive boot camp. And if you do this boot camp correctly, it'll be life-changing. Day 2 is 6 hours. That's generally, so Thursday would be the 4 to 8, 5 to 9, whatever time we decide that you're going to roll in. And then the second day is 6 hours, and that day will be a very specific. We start at 4 and go to 10. And so with that 6 hours, we'll learn how to make agreements. We'll learn how to understand each other during communication and during conversations. And that's such a key, to learn how to understand your partner. And that requires you to learn how to clear out all judgment of the past, all judgment of what you think you know, and allow yourself to be taught by your partner how they see the world. We're going to understand how context matters, how during the conversation we see context so different. How can two people witness the same accident and both of them come away from it with a different viewpoint? We will share with you how that actually works and how to get around it. We're going to talk about how to speak on one topic at a time when you're the speaker. So many couples do what I call dumpster firing. They bring out 20 issues all at once, or they start with one and then they graft 20 others in thinking they're all the same issue, and they're really not. We're going to talk about how to take timeouts when flooded and how to get unflooded. And we're also going to talk about how to forgive and how to seek forgiveness. Day 3, the final day, after homework and a whole night of experiences that you'll engage in together, day 3 is a 10-hour day. We start at 7 in the morning and we go till 5. We might even go longer if we need to, but 7 to 5 is a pretty natural Saturday. We'll do a mini assessment of where you're at after the first 2 days. We'll make sure that we know what you want to cover the last 10 hours, and then we'll explore how you view your world. We'll explore some of the difficult conversations that we brought up yesterday, the day before in therapy, and we'll make sure that we have agreements made or shared vision. We'll talk about how to express yourselves properly, how to work towards the correct agreements towards shared vision so that you can manage conflict really well. Remember, we don't often solve conflict. Most often we manage it. While you're managing conflict, it requires you to really understand each other and make agreements and extend grace. And so we're going to talk over and over again about how to communicate and how to communicate fair, how to fight fair, how to argue productively. We're going to talk about lasting rituals that'll support this marital growth. Now, this is such an important part. To find the love that you want, you need rituals. And these rituals are the ways that you will participate in your week. There's 3 mandatory meetings. There's the couples council that you'll do with each other. There's the family night and the couples date night. Those things are mandatory. We've got blueprints for each of them, okay? So those are the 3 days. Those 10 hours will cover the deeper issues. We'll make agreements. We'll come to some conclusions on what grace can be extended to, and also what agreements need to be made to move forward with those more core, solid, dark, sometimes even ugly issues. The follow-up sessions are all about relapse prevention. The first session of the follow-up session will make sure that you've maintained a marital governing purpose. The second session will make sure that you understand your top needs to be happy and how to express them. That's the communication assignments. The third session will be about the date nights and how you're doing and how you've organized them and who's in charge of what. Does one of you get the babysitter and one arrange the date? Do you both share responsibilities? How do we do this? The next session after that, we cover the top 4 or 5 big marital issues. That's money, sex, how we spend our time, parenting, and how we seek forgiveness. Those 5 things are covered from session 4, 5, 6, and 7. You can tell how this is a very in-depth look at your marriage. I want you to decide, do you need this? We have 20 to 25 spots that are going to open up in 2023. They will fill up fast, so I invite you to, if you want one of these sessions, please call in quick and let's make them work. Okay? Dr. Matt Eschler here. My wife Chris will be on some reels that you can go onto Instagram and meet her, and we will talk to you later.